I would like to warmly welcome you to this webinar and take this as an opportunity to invite you to introduce yourself by your name and the name of your organization. And you may also feel to share in there your social media handles in the chat box. It is also not too late to invite somebody to join in the conversation using the short link that we'll be sharing in the chat box as well. The hashtag for this conversation is Future of Work. May I request you to stay muted unless you're speaking. Well, unemployment is a factor that plagues many youths across Kenya, and we should say across many parts of the world. That is why Zizi Africa Foundation, Global Development Incubator, and Swahili Port Hub Foundation, under the umbrella of Global Opportunity Youth Network, have been partnering to implement an initiative aimed at enhancing youth employability and economic empowerment using data and information as a catalyst. The project, dubbed Future of Work, aims to establish a labor market observatory for hospitality and tourism sectors to enable decision-making and inform policy amongst labor market actors. Today, we are pleased to share with you the findings of a recent study that was done through the partnership of the three organizations, and that was titled Understanding the Demands for Jobs and Skills in the Hospitality and Tourism Industry, Food and Beverage Sector in Mombasa County. You can read more in the report that we'll be sharing, whose link we'll be sharing in the chat box as well. But we are happy to note that we are already joined by young people and employers in the hospitality and tourism sectors, civil society organizations, and policymakers at global, national, and county levels. Thank you very much for your time. Just to highlight that this webinar is very important because it aims to disseminate evidence generated from the rounds of surveys that we've conducted across Mombasa County. And we also aim to enhance stakeholder engagement from both state and non-state actors, as well as generate a learning agenda. And here at Zizi and with our partners, we are big on learning. So we welcome you to join in. I would at this time like to welcome Dr. Morris Mutisia, who is the Director of Research for the Future.
Thank you, Ray. Confirm that you can hear me.
Yes, please go ahead.
And good afternoon, everyone. I think mine is just to welcome everybody to this webinar. We're excited to have you. Yeah, and Zizi Africa is a research and advocacy organization. We are focusing a lot of our work on foundational skills, with a particular focus on embedding our work within the system, such that the little things that we do, they have been able, the system can be able to uptake them and scale them within the environments that we are working in. Our work is currently spread in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Malawi, and Cameroon. And in those countries, we are working with partners. And as you have heard from Ray, even this initiative that we have, we also work with partners, GDI, Swahili Port, and others that are working within the youth employment space. And that underscores so much on how the posture of Zizi is an ecosystem builder, but also a very collaborative organization. And we're excited to have you today here to be able to discuss the findings of the work that you've been able to do, but also to be able to share, discuss, but also share highlights of the different experiences that different teams have. I think we have a set of panelists that will be able to share one or two kind of ideas of where they are and what they see the future of work coming into. But more importantly, what I want to highlight is what we all know. There is a lot of investment within our education systems, and particularly like in Kenya now, we are talking about competence-based education. And those investment in one way or the other should be able to respond to the needs that are emerging within the market. And the markets, they are becoming dynamic every day with a lot of shifts. And those investment means if they are not aligned, if they are not speaking to what are the shifts that are coming, then may not be able to resort to the very kind of outcomes that we want to see in the community. So this is so essential for us, and we hope and look forward to the discussions today. Over to you, Ray.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mutisia. We now want to see some of the highlights of the findings that are being presented by Dr. Joshua Magero, who is the manager for Future of Work program. Dr. Terry, you may want to unmute, sorry.
Yeah, just confirming that you're able to see my screen.
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to present the findings of this study that we conducted in Mombasa, whose evidence and outcomes will potentially bring insights into unlocking youth unemployment in the Kenya's food and beverage subsector. And I'm going to present on a brief background, the methodological approach, and the respondent's profile, highlighting key findings and recommendations of the study. The overall objective of this study was to provide evidence to catalyze youth employment in the food and beverage subsector in Mombasa County. But we also collected evidence from the hotel and accommodation subsector. We began by mapping the skills, the occupations that exist in the hospitality and tourism industry, but then narrowing down to the food and beverage subsector. And beyond looking at the workforce characteristics and the occupations that are available, we also scoped for the that the industry anticipate will be in demand and skills they think would be obsolete in the near future. More importantly, we hope that this evidence will influence how we, in one way or another, the policy and practices, particularly in the field of youth employability. So, looking at the Kenya's population a structure, Kenya is largely a youthful population, with percent of the population being below the age of 35. And more striking is the fact that over 60% of those people who are looking for jobs, who are either employed, looking for jobs, or just not in training, a larger percentage of those people are youth aged between 15 to 24 years. And a lot of evidence also shows that there is an influx of people entering the job market, with over 1 million people, particularly the youths, entering the job market each year in search of employment. However, what is striking is that there is no available jobs to absorb this youth, the bulging youth population, and therefore youth unemployment continues to rise. And this rising youth unemployment is attributed to several factors, including skills mismatches, lack of quality jobs, and inequalities within our systems that also play out in the job market. And therefore, in the current wake of the technological advances and climate change effect, the demographic shifts and economic instability, we would expect that the youth unemployment will continue to rise. And against the mismatch of the skills that evidence shows, we'd expect that if we do, sorry. Sorry for that. Sorry for that late. Yes.
There is an echo. I don't know if it's because you are closer to someone who's also in the platform.
Yeah, but let me try and change my location. There's as ongoing concurrent
Maybe
meeting.
you could share the screen sharing mode so that we could see the whole presentation. Thank you, Daktari, but you're fine. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Allow me to locate briefly.
So much. Meanwhile, I want to welcome people to interact with us online. We already have people telling us where they're coming from, and we have many people joining us, including policy players, market players, as well as civil society organizations. Daktari, I hope you're now settled and you can continue. You can just put yourself on the screen sharing mode so that it's wider, but don't worry, if it doesn't work, we can still go on in the interest of time. Thank you.
I'm not, is it now on screen sharing mode?
It's all right. You can see you, though it is like the shorter version. I don't know that you want to pin it, but just go on, please. Don't worry. Sorry for the distraction.
All right, so allow me just proceed in the interest of time. And so I was saying that the Kenya's youth demography presents an opportunity, but this opportunity can only be harvested if we invest in skills and training. But narrowing down into Mombasa, Mombasa presents a key, contributes significantly to the Kenya's economy by over 10% to the national output. And more particularly, this contribution is attributed to the hospitality and tourism sector. But against that rosy picture of Mombasa's economy and its significant contribution, Mombasa also grapples with the challenge of youth unemployment, with the rising population of about 1.55 projected million at this point, and about 500,000 youths youths in Mombasa. 6 out of 10 of youth in Mombasa are not in any training, they're not in employment, neither are they in education. And therefore, we have had several interventions trying to understand the youth unemployment landscape in Mombasa. And particularly, there have been efforts by the GOIN network, the USAID and the Mood Labor Market Mapping, and KPA, who is present with us, looking at the skills gap analysis of TVET institution. And therefore, this study just builds on these ongoing attempts to explore the potential of the food and beverage subsector's contribution to addressing youth unemployment and catalyzing youth employability. It's important, particularly at this point, because of the ever-evolving nature of Kenya's job market. And therefore, we proceed to what we did in this study. We conducted a longitudinal survey, 3 rounds of data collection to be precise, and within the months of September 2024 and the month of February 2025. The idea was to collect this information both during high peak and off peak season. And we believe that the evidence that we collect from the industry would be giving very good insights of the employment trend and the hospitality industry at large. So in round one, we collected. In round one, we reached out to over 1,500 enterprises, successfully interviewing around 1,400 enterprises. We scoped for the occupations that are available in the industry, the workforce characteristics, the job requirements, any vacancies available, and how they'll be recruited. Then we had another follow-up in round 2 in the month of November and December, where we followed up on how the vacancies were filled, the challenges that were present during in filling those vacancies. Above that, we also collected information on any additional competencies that are required for the occupations within the hospitality and tourism industry. We did another round of follow-up in the month of January and February, the year 2025, looking at how the vacancies were filled, again, following up on which occupations were difficult to fill. But over and above that, what factors would, in the opinion of the employers, spur their growth so that they're able to create more employment for the youth. And so who responded to our survey? So we collected information from across all the sub-counties and across all the wards in Mombasa. And in terms of ownership, over half of the enterprises we visited were owned by women. That means about 46% were owned by men, and most of the respondents were at senior levels. So at the we got information. Our respondents were general managers, human resource managers, or line supervisors. How about the establishments that we visited? So the key decision makers for most of the enterprises were either owners or by managers. And the enterprises were also very financially literate, as they reported keeping daily records of transactions. They operated in a wide variety of lines of operation, including catering, restaurant, food, pubs and bars, food delivery, and besides many other lines of operations. What came out again here is that most of the enterprises were largely small, micro, and medium. So the hospitality and tourism sector, particularly the food and beverage subsector, is largely small economy or informally driven. So the findings that emerged from this presentation, from this study, we began by desk review, just knowing which occupations are there in the hospitality and tourism industry, food and beverage subsector, and hotel and accommodation. And this is just a list of around 196 occupations. The codes there, according to the Kenyan Occupational Standards Classification. But then we narrowed down to the food and beverage subsector, where we were interested in which occupations really presented high demand for workers. And the first finding is that occupations in the food and beverage subsector with high demand for workers is in the food and beverage kitchen and food and beverage service. As you can see, cooks, waiters, waitresses, as presented here. And these occupations had demand for new vacancies across 3 rounds of survey. Sorry, my slide is not moving. In terms of educational qualifications required to do the tasks in the hospitality and tourism industry, most employers reported that TVET level of training is sufficient for most of the tasks. And however, additional competencies besides the technical qualifications were required, including non-technical skills, so the soft skills as problem solving, communication, and many other aspects of soft skills. The second finding relates to the mode of recruitment and how positions are advertised. What emerges is that referrals, word-of-mouth referrals from the existing staff and relatives is the main mode of recruitment, and also people walking in to look for jobs. Now, the implication of this is that this mode of recruitment potentially locks out the youths with the skills that are needed for the industry, but at the same time also locking out employers from finding the right skills. So it's not a very inclusive means of recruitment, as we miss out on the job and skills matching. The finding 3 is about how vacancies emerge and how they are filled. What we found out is that there's a quick turnaround in populating the vacancies as and when they emerge, and that's there was around average of 20% increase, around 20% increase in recruitment by the firms. So when we extrapolate this means that on average you'd expect that if we had 10,000 jobs and each 10,000 enterprises and each enterprise having two vacancies emerging, then that means that the sector has potential of creating employment. Finding 4, employee transition is mainly influenced by work conditions. So people move either in search of better job opportunities or the desire to have a better work-life balance. How about, on the other hand, however, employers let employees go due to restructuring or failure to meet job expectations. Our finding 5 relates to the emerging skills gap that exists between what the industry needs and what the youth possess, and the employers reported that about half of their current workforce do not possess the skills that are required for these tasks, and neither do they want to upskill their employees. And in terms of skills which are gaining traction and gaining demand, the technological, tech-driven occupations are gaining demand, and the manual density of operations, including manual bookkeeping and traditional ways of marketing, are becoming obsolete with the time. Our second last finding is about what employers do to what training institutions can do to better prepare the youth for the jobs that are available in the industry. And in the opinion of the employers, that the training institutions should offer more practical training, which communicates to aligning more with TVET expectations and integrating industry in curriculum review to stay relevant with the industry needs. Our last finding is about the income differentials that exist, and what we see is that large enterprises, so the big hotels, tend to pay more than the small hotels. However, the average earning in the hospitality and tourism sector is around 20,000. So an average worker in the hospitality and tourism sector earns around 20,000. The highest income earners is between 40,000 and 50,000, and that only constitutes 1% of the population. Employees do not have non-salary benefits like medical cover, social security, paid sick leave, or overtime pay. And what recommendations emerge from our findings? There is need for stronger collaboration between training institutions and the industry, so that they're able to communicate to each other, so that training institutions train on industry demanded skills. And there is also need to have data and technology creating to reduce the mismatch, the frictions in the job market between placing the youth in the valuable occupations. And one of our key recommendations, one of our key interventions is establishing a dynamic labor market information system that is able to provide data in real time to the labor market actors so that they're able to make informed decisions and catalyze youth employability. There's also a call to invest in youth entrepreneurship to unlock their potential. And one of these interventions, for example, would include increasing access, reducing the restrictions to access to capital, business support, and technical support to the youth by the government. Need to integrate industry in the training model so that the youth are able to be adequately prepared for the job market, so that they're easily and almost immediately employable in the industry. There is also need to develop an inclusive recruitment system so that we do not potentially lock out the youths with the skills that are needed for the industry, and at the same time, employers do not miss out on the skills from the youths that they're seeking for these occupations. So these are some of the emerging recommendations from our study, and thank you very much for listening to the presentation. Over to you, Ray.
Thank you very much, Dr. Magero, for helping us appreciate the findings, the 7 key findings that we have in the report. And just a reminder that our findings, it can be found in the full report, which has been shared by my colleague Adam Waniki around 17 minutes past 4. So you can interact with it. And as early as now, you may also share your questions on the chat box. For those who are just joining in, you're welcome. And I also invite you to share your name, your organization's name, and if possible, even your social media handles. So as you know, we are not doing this alone. We work with partners. I want to bring in Madam Rukia Jamal, who is the head of partnerships at Swahili Port Hub Foundation, to help us appreciate the kind of partnerships that we have around this initiative. Over to you, Rukia.
Thank you very much. Let me just make sure everyone can see me. Good evening, everyone. As introduced, my name is Rukia Jamal, and I work for Swahili Pata Foundation as the head of partnership and resource mobilization. Thank you very much, Dr. Hagera, for taking us through briefly on what the research and report is about. So a brief introduction on who Swahili Pata is. So Swahili Pata Foundation is a non-governmental organization focused on empowering young people from the age of 18 to 35 years old with an aim of ensuring more young people have access to economic opportunities. We started by being a tech hub and later integrated creatives and arts, and then introduced heritage, looking at the economic opportunities in heritage, but also mostly considering the main issue was connecting young people to economic empowerment. We started also looking at priority sectors within the ecosystem that would drive more young people to have access to economic opportunities. And with that in mind, we became an anchor partner to the Global Opportunity Youth Network. This is a network operated globally, anchored by the Aspen Institute in United States of America. And we became among the early communities that were able to take up and implement this approach to programming. It is not a project, it is the approach to programming in that a lot of times when we talk about young people, we put all of them together. But if we look at the dynamics of young people have different profiles, they have different experiences, they have different opportunities that they would be tailor-made to. But if you also look at the current job market, it is not designed for, it is only designed for a certain set of young people, especially those who were actually quite privileged to go through the education system, work experience, and get into the job market. However, in any industry, there are various jobs that don't necessarily need you to go through, getting a college degree to get that out. So with Global Opportunity Youth Network, we specifically look into the issues of young people who are not in education, not in training, not in employment. In the traditional ways of calling the same people, we'd call them vulnerable youth or marginalized youth. But we take a different approach in calling them opportunity youth because we look at the opportunities that they could actually contribute to. As we all know, Kenya is a very youthful country with 70% of its population being below the age of 35 years old. And the same reflects to Mombasa County in terms of its population being youthful as well. Unfortunately, 66% of this population are young people that are not in education, training, or employment. And also because of its geographic location, organically being able to have people from Kwale and Kilifi County, almost 750 people that come into the county every single day, either for school, work, access to healthcare or anything else. So organically, what that means is they access the resources within the county, and then in the evening, they all go back to their homes. So when we started with the Global Opportunity Youth Network, we initially just started at looking at Mombasa as a county because the approach is place-based to understand the challenge within a specific ecosystem, because we understand that the issues in Mombasa are not necessarily the same as issues in Taita Taveta or Lamu or Kwale or Nairobi or any other parts of the country. So taking the place-based approach enables us to understand where the partners to work with, the current resources and opportunities that the existing ecosystem actually has to provide, and also calling it an approach is because we try as much as possible to work with the ecosystem. And this involves the government, private sector, and it's not in terms of just rubber stamping, but it's really understanding what are the issues and what every single person is able to put in place. And that's how Zizi Africa is here to do this same research here, because end of day, we all implement the programs and we want people to have access to opportunities. But the question is, which are these opportunities? What are the opportunities within the sector that the opportunity youth could take up? So that even as, implementing partners, and when we're designing programs for young people, we're actually designing programs that are meeting the market needs. Understanding that's what hotels, how much they will pay, so that even when it comes to the investment, we know exactly how we're investing, who we're investing into, and how all these young people would actually be absorbed in the system. And ensuring that youth are the center of everything, not just when everything has been designed and then we have young people participate in it, But from onset, if we're doing research, or the young people participating in that and analyzing and engaging with the employers and understanding the role that they are expected to. At the same time, also, GON doesn't just look into preparing the young people in the workforce place, but also working with the private sector to understand the issues of the young people, to understand the challenges that they're facing, so that these young people that we work so hard to place, how do we make sure that they're actually retained in the job, you know, have the same professional attitude, resilience to take up the challenges and climb through the job ladder, the corporate ladder, and at the same time ensuring that the private sector is able to create a very conducive working environment for the young people to want to work there and also be retained in the same jobs. Because also among the issues that we have, that the private sector would not want to, you know, employ young people beyond the work experience, that's very unrealistic. It is also the professional ethics the young people are expected to have. When a approach takes that holistic approach in working with different players within the ecosystem and seeing how we're able to create a holistic approach and holistic empowerment or development approach for the young people. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for putting our tripartite partnership within context, and we cannot talk without the youths, and we are really thankful that the youths are also joining in, both in employment and out of employment, especially those interested in the two subsectors that we are focusing on. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we proceed to the heart of reflections on the findings in a very rich discussion that will be headed by my colleague Samuel Otieno, who is the Director of Advocacy and Partnerships here at Zizi Afrique Foundation. But before Sam comes in, allow me to introduce part of the panel. And we are honored to host Dr. Wanjiru Kariuki, who is the Secretary Skills Development in the State Department for Labor and Skills Development. She has previously served as Education Secretary at the State Department for Post-Training and Skills Development, Gender Secretary at the State Development for Gender Affairs, and Director as well as CEO at the Kenya Education Management Institute, abbreviated as KEMI. We also have Dr. Sam Ikwai, who is a university lecturer and the executive officer of Kenya Association of Hotel Keepers and Caterers Host Chapter. His expertise and experience pivoted him to be a certified hotel assessor for East African Community Hotels and Restaurants classification criteria. Our third panelist is Ms. Nancy Gathigia, the Acting Director of Vocational Training, Mombasa County. She is a seasoned technical trainer who is passionate about skills development. She brings a wealth of experience and insight to the transformation of vocational training, especially in Mombasa County. We are also privileged to be joined by Mr. Ndongo Kahiho, who is the Executive Director, CAP Youth Empowerment Institute, otherwise abbreviated as CAPYE, based in Nairobi, Kenya. He's currently engaged in supporting technical and vocational education and training sector reforms in Kenya and across Africa. Mr. Kahiho has researched and published widely on the subject. So now he has also worked in many international agencies in Africa, in Canada, and in Central America. Also in the panel, and she has just spoken to us, is Madam Rukia Jamal, who is a skilled communication professional with passion in diplomatic relations. She's currently serving as the head of partnerships at Swahili Port Hub Foundation, where she plays a key role in driving the organization's growth through strategic partnerships. She is now focusing on coordinating ecosystem partners, foster collaboration, streamline resource management, and enhance support for youth. Now, let me bring in Sam and his panel. Over to you, Sam. Let's hear from you.
Thank you very much, Ray, Polo, for that beautiful introduction. Can you all hear me?
Yes, Sam, please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you all here. And ladies and gentlemen, as Ray has given a very elaborate introduction to my distinguished panel, without much ado, I would just like us to jump and get some reflections on what these findings portend or mean for the industry and perhaps the change that we all seek to see happening in this particular ministry. And I'll go straight away to the place where we like to place a lot of responsibility. That is the government. And we all understand the critical role that the Directorate of Labor and Skills Development in the Ministry of Labor carries in such an endeavor. And so I would go straight to Dr. Wanjiru. What are your key reflections from government on these findings, and how aligned, particularly with the government plans and all the other programs going on within the ministry, and maybe what would we expect to see as a result of this finding?
Well, thank you for that question. Now, the study that has been done by Zizi Afrique, I want to say is very encouraging, because at the moment we are trying to link skill supply with demand. You are aware that we have a skills mismatch, which is contributing to high youth unemployment. And therefore, this study comes at the right time when we are trying to do this linkage between industry and education and training. At the moment, the State Department for Labor and Skills Development is developing national occupational standards. These are standards that are required to guide curriculum development, so that the curriculum that is developed is aligned to the standards of industry. Now, one requirement for occupational standards to be used is that first and foremost, you have a skills gap report. And therefore, this skills gap report that has been done by Zizi Afrique is very good, because it sets the pace for the value chain. Because now we want to operate with a value chain where we start with analysis, we move to the occupational standards, we move to curriculum development, and then we move to the qualification. That is the value chain we want to work with. So this study comes to help us in that value chain, so that we have now taken care of the gaps. We now go to the occupational standards. And I want to say that Zizi Afrique has been in helping us to develop the occupational standards for the hospitality sector. In fact, they were the first to finish. And the next step that is remaining is for us now to validate those occupational standards, so that now curriculum can be developed to those, aligned to those occupational standards. I think that's what I would say for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daktari. Very interesting, I think, and good progress too, the whole idea around the occupational standard, to be able to bring some regulation within the industry. And talking about the industry, I know that KPA works a lot in trying to align the industry and the training and the industry needs. And Mr. Nunu, I would like to hear from you, what evidence do we see from this research, and what does it point to when it comes how to ensure industry-driven training? Because if you look at the evidence from the trainers, both private and public, like Dr. Magero said, they agree that vocational training is sufficient, but these are the additional skills that are needed. So what evidence do you see here, and where do we go from here with these findings? Mr. Ndongo.
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to also echo what Dr. Wanjiru has said. This is a very good beginning. I call it a beginning, because for competency-based education and training to work in Kenya, competency-based skills delivery, this should collecting data. It should not no longer be enough to just say that we are training in carpentry, because that's the way we have always done it in the past. And that's why I commended. I listened to a presentation of this report a couple of weeks ago, and I was one of the people who said, well, let's gather a group of people involved in this sector and query this data, and then ask ourselves, what can we do with it? And here the key people are those responsible for implementing skills using the competency-based education and training framework. Because one of the other things you find is that for this to work, people have to become confident in using data and being questioned in a data fashion. We are not there by any means, but KPA has worked in this manner for 15 years, and we have used the same people that work in the rest of the sector. my recommendation would actually be that it is possible for the future efforts by ZZ Africa and other partners, GDI, Swahili Port, to help this effort along by deliberately customizing the data gathering in a fashion that is more usable, immediately usable by training skills providers. So by asking ourselves, the question is, if I am the of a vocational training center in Mombasa, and I'm required to offer skills in the hospitality sector, and now my boss says it's not enough to just train, we have also to show the impact of that training to those young people through my institution. What do I need to know in advance? And here, that's why you customize parts of the data gathering framework and the results to answer those questions. If I am the director, I would like to know who are going to, the likely employers of the young people that I'm training now. Yeah, it's in the hospitality sector, but we know that there are many, when we talk of hospitality, there are many types, subsectors in that sector. Where are they? Because I'm going to need to engage with them. It's a requirement of the TVET framework, actually, that the delivery of skills, including the completion of a curriculum and the delivery of that curriculum has to involve the sector for which you are training. So where can I find them? What are they looking for? You see, they themselves are not looking for students, they are looking for employers, but as a manager of a training institution, I have a responsibility to convert my students to become employers who are employable. So what are these employers looking for? And then specifically, even in the summary, and I'm not criticizing anything in this report, customizing the summary of the recommendations so that the specific, I think that would help us a long way in this process. And I know Mombasa County has many challenges, including perhaps the largest number of marginalized young people in this country. But Mombasa County also has one advantage. It is small. It's a city. Everybody is close together. It is possible to actually bring together all the skills trainers in Mombasa in a room. It's actually possible to do that. So if we really want transition to happen, Mombasa is the right place. We have started in the right place. But I also have a recommendation and a challenge to ZZ Africa to capiate all that it is also time that we started looking at the tools that we use for this market assessment so that they work for us for the future. And I'll give just two examples. There are many sectors we know are likely to yield opportunities for livelihood, for jobs, for young people. But because there is so little done in those sectors, even trainers don't even know what to train for. One example was mentioned here, climate change. There's hardly any information that you can find anywhere that tells you that if you wanted to apply a livelihood approach to solving the problem of climate change, where are those livelihoods? The same tools can be tweaked to do that. The other one is self-employment. And we already know now there is a trend where young people increasingly are preferring to become business owners or saying they want to become that one. Is it possible that we tweak the tools we use now so that instead of just revealing the likelihood of opportunities in employment, we are also able to say, okay, this sector may have a job for you right away. There are these opportunities where you can start a business and grow it and earn money. Those are just two examples. And then the final one is I noticed the report authors are a bit hesitant to make numbered estimations of livelihood opportunities. We used to be hesitant like that also ourselves, but we have done this for 15 years. And I can tell you that nobody requires you to hit everything perfect. But the data you collect, even just talking to employers, will give you a very good indication of the subsector that would be beneficial, that would yield a likelihood of opportunities. And I encourage our researchers, don't worry about being questioned that, oh, you said there are likely to be 1,000 jobs in the as waiters in Mombasa. If you're close enough, that data is enough to help. So those are the comments that I wanted to make, but I also want to close here by saying again, thank you very much. You are leading into an area that Kenya must go to if we are going to transform this sector,
Yes.
and we must. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those very elaborate explanations. Also very big dreams in terms of how we can be able to transform this sector, but also with a lot of challenges and a lot of, you've given a challenge to the researchers, but also given a challenge on around the use of data, and particularly to the county government. And now I would like to shift over to Nancy. Our constitution contemplates that the county government must provide leadership in the area of TVET. And what does these findings point to? And how do they speak to the priorities of Mombasa County in terms of improving youth employability? And of course, taking advantage of the hospitality sector, which is a major one in the county.
I hope you can hear me. I just first want to echo what the other presenters have just said, that this report is timely and has come in a good time, that as Mombasa, we are asking
Madam Nancy,
ourselves, what can we do?
Your face. Excuse me, Madam Nancy. We are only seeing your hands, but we can hardly see your face. Would you like to turn the camera properly, or maybe switch off for now as you sort it out? Thank you.
I was saying this report is timely, and it's an opportunity even for us as Mombasa County to relook on how we are offering vocational training. First, I'd like to say that this report is highly relevant to us, especially for purposes of planning in the area of vocational training alignment with the county's economic priorities. This is because Mombasa, hospitality is one of our great county's economy. And this is a sector that drives Mombasa, the tourism, hospitality, logistics, and also the maritime industry. So for us, the relevance of this finding is very key, and especially to the fact that we have a youthful population in Mombasa, and hospitality being the main major employer in Mombasa, at least contributing in our GDP, it's an important report for us. This will enable us into how to align ourselves in how we'll address the youth unemployment, how we shall bridge this gap, especially by identifying those demanded. It is report that there are those areas that have demand, yet we are not training them, the vocational training centers, and we have not embraced some of these programs. For instance, you'll find in our VTCs, we do not have courses like the menu planning, also adapting into the communication skills. And I think for us from this report, we have a lot to borrow. And also we'll be able to promote the inclusive opportunities for the marginalized youth. And as Mr. Ndongo said, Mombasa, we have a high number of marginalized youth. And I think this will be our county priority to foster the economic growth for this disadvantaged group through training, through sponsorship. And this aligns very well with our program or with our plan as the county government, because we're in the process of youth through the Skills Mtaani program, which will be supporting our young people under the Tujiajiri program. And I think from this finding now, it gives us a green light on what areas to focus on, especially when we are sponsoring students. And with this, it will be able to support the young people to get the right skills and get the right opportunities for them. From this report, I've also seen a great emphasis on collaboration between government and the private sector and the training institutions, the industry, and with all that, it will assist us into addressing this skills gap. And like this partnership of ZZ, report and GDI, it clearly demonstrates that it is doable. It is doable for us to partner, for us to work together and be able to align our training. And also when we are doing the fund, it's good to note that we've seen a lot of partnership, especially from KPA in funding students. And for us now, with the resources that we have as a county, it will enable us even to fund our institution with the right infrastructure and equipment. So our insights in the whole of this report, I think first for us is to prioritize demand-driven vocational education and training. I think that is very key for us. Work on aligning our courses, our programs, and also enhance our infrastructure, because that is one of the areas that also has come out, that we do not have appropriate infrastructure that is needed for the industry. And then the other area that we can get from this report and insight for us as Mombasa County is incorporate soft skill and digital literacy. And these are some of the things that we've started working on even at our vocational training institutions. Then the other area is for us to align all this with the county priorities. And as we are working on our CRDPs, as we are working on our ADPs, and to have an emphasis on providing vocational education and training that has employable skills, that we will connect these young people as we foster into industry and partnerships. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nancy. And again, really positive sentiment coming there, and what you feel potentially the county government could do. And I want to shift gears to them. Dr. Ikwaya, you represent this industry. The hospitality and tourism industry is synonymous with Mombasa County, and there are a lot of issues emerging in that report around how you recruit, through word of mouth, issues around retention, and even issues around what the young people feel about security, job security and everything, and the work environment. What are some of the insights that you pick from here, and how does this influence how you as employers are going to operate, and what you can change to be able to improve what happens in this industry?
Thank you, Sam, and probably want to thank everyone, particularly ZZ Africa and all those who are involved in putting this research together. I think it's a good piece of work done. And also want to echo other speakers who have lauded the report as a good starting point, or probably a continuation, because we have seen many institutions putting forward very good studies. So a good research is as good as how it is consumed and how the findings are implemented. And we're hoping that we are going to take advantage and put these perspectives into light and realize some of these recommendations. But to begin, it's probably, and again, also not to criticize the report, but a key observation of the subsector that was focused on food and beverage. Probably is important to state that this is one industry that has undergone massive transformation in the recent past. And so these transformations have revolutionized the way we do business, and particularly for the subsector that was focused on food and beverage. In the hotel industry and in the whole scheme of transformation, this is one subsector that has actually been affected because remember, we had two segments. We either had leisure business and we had MICE business that is synonymous with Mombasa. But in the recent past, we have seen a surge in how the business is actually done, a surge in emerging trends. For example, platforms, Airbnbs have actually revolutionized that particular business. And therefore, we don't necessarily have many waiters, many F&B people in a place where there are no jobs, so to speak. Let me explain this. with the transformation that is happening, for example, a hotel that had of say 300 Monday to Friday, now shifting or scaling down to target or dwell more on MICE business that is going to happen twice or thrice a week, means that being a highly labor intensive industry, a lot of jobs will probably be dropped. And therefore, where has this business moved? We have seen, I've talked about Airbnbs, a lot of bread and breakfast outlets coming up, apartments coming up. We have a lot of omni-channels. A restaurant
Yes.
that has many outlets. We have what you call ghost kitchens on the rise, particularly in Mombasa. It's a pavement in the morning, but then it is a fully fledged restaurant in the evening. That means that that restaurant, that hotel that has had a restaurant by the beach that used to serve particular cuisine or specialty will not be able to get enough people. And therefore, that means that probably a hotel will also have to change how they do their business and operate to be able to accommodate the dynamics of business. And therefore, these are very important perspectives that probably we need to look at as we digest this study. So where have the jobs moved to? That's a very important starting point. The report has also talked about the drivers and what is going to drive this industry for the future. And the truth, technology, innovations, these are huge things. So as you look at where the youth are, we need to start putting perspectives around where the jobs are going to be so that we can focus these youth properly, focus the opportunities properly so that then we can actually hit them very well. Apart from the changes that we're experiencing in the market dynamics, we have seen, I was talking to a gentleman this morning about the nightlife, for example, is one sector that was a huge employer of F&B, the waiters and the people who came in to serve and everything. But what have we seen happening in that particular segment of the leisure business, for example, is that a lot of nightclubs have closed, and we are now having young people and people preferring to meet in small spaces, small clubs, and that has actually changed how people get out and how people get employed in those particular spaces. So we have also experienced a lot of talent mobility. Initially, we had a good the economy having suffered as it has. We have seen a surge in young people coming to Mombasa to look for jobs, and that means that Mombasa then has a buzz. A lot of people believe when I study for tourism hospitality, I will go to the coast region and there have a employment. That means the few scarce are being competed for by the many youth who have come in the region, and that poses a challenge. Of course, there are issues of skills gap, and a skills gap. How do we train the young people? It is possible that people can be trained, come out of colleges trained, but absolutely untrained. and this study has picked some of those issues, the soft skills that we need. You don't just have to go and learn how to make that pizza. There are other skills around making that pizza, the other skills that accompany the service of that pizza. And these have actually largely been lacking in our institutions. And I like what Rhoda from the ministry has talked about. We need to find a place of a tripartite arrangement where we can get the employers, the trainers, and government on the table to be able to look and really this industry, because truth is we cannot attract young people to take interest to go to school to study for 3 years to come and earn 20,000 shillings. So what is actually coming out strongly is that we are seeing the industry attracting people from other sectors. I'll go to school to study mechanical engineering and study other professions, but as a way to get absorbed in my sector of training, I come to the industry, hospitality and tourism industry, to do food and beverage service or production as a stepping stone, and then I proceed to my opportunities of employment. So these are dynamics that I think we need probably a platform to be able to digest them and put them in good perspective. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ikwaya. You have made me learn another term there. called the ghost kitchen. I normally like to sneak there to take my pojo in the evening, or samaki wa kupaka at a very pocket friendly, cost. So
As you enjoy your samaki wa kupaka in a ghost kitchen, no, there's a waiter and a cook who has lost a job somewhere, because this is at home and then served at that pay. So a waiter just lost. Thank you, sir.
But again, these are very interesting dynamics, and you raise an issue that is really important around collaboration and just having a multi-sectoral approach, but where also we get out of the silos that have characterized our work in this sector. And I want to thank you for the questions that are coming in. We're going to have a brief question and answer session. But before that, I just wanted to bring in one of our partners. Swahili Port has been doing quite a bit in this sector. So Rukia, I just wanted to get your perspectives on these findings, and please feel free to tell us any other insight that you might have that maybe the study would have left out, and maybe your experience in dealing in this industry. Very briefly, before we continue. Hello, Rukia, are you there? Rukia Jamal? Check if Rukia is there. And maybe I would just like to invite 2 more people to just use 2 minutes to just give their perspectives. I can see Nancy from Kipra. I know you've asked some questions here, but maybe also just your actions to these findings. Hello, can you hear me? Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can, Sam. I'm just wondering if we could also bring in Mr. Peter Kibe, who is the Hospitality and Tourism Lead at Global Development Incubator, for his reflections as we wait on the connect or switch on. Thank you, Sam.
Sure, Mr. Peter Kibe. You have some 2 minutes to just give your reflection.
So much. I'm really have come up to this point. It is indeed that GDI, Swahili Port, Zizi collaborated in putting up this together. And I just have actually 1 minute to, I will not repeat what other speakers have said, but it is true that we don't have any choice. All trainers, all NGOs, all TVETs in Mombasa, we must first of all agree that we are going to shift to demand-driven curriculum. Training activities and efforts must not end with certificates and graduations. The burden of placement must be placed on us who are skilling these people. And what that will do is that we will try as much as possible to train what the industry requires. So we can no longer train the way we used to train. You just train and hope people will be absorbed here and there. Everything must be scientific. If the industry requires 1,000 chefs, that information must be shared across all skilling institutions, so that they say Kapia will train 200, TUM will train the other 200. What has been happening is not sustainable. I just wanted to share something, a reflection. I think one employer has reached out to me to told me, Peter, do you have 3 waiters? I need 3 waiters tomorrow morning for an interview. And that me, an idea, brought up an idea in my head that I don't know whether as a collaborative, as he trying to problem, we might need to have probably a central repository of workforce and people, and so quickly, fill their vacancies from that central repository. That is something I don't know whether we can think along those lines with Zizi on how to, to proceed with this work. Lastly, is that this effort is good. We did with we dealt with the food and beverage, but the tourism and hospitality is a very wide sector. Probably we must cascade it to travel, housekeeping, and other sectors. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kibe. An interesting observation from Ndungu Kahiu, who says this is a very good report. Please note that the majority of livelihoods opportunities in the hospitality facilities as their needs are different. For instance, the cost of engaging with TVET may sometimes be too high and they may need support. Also, these are the employers who often tell us that if we support them to grow, they will hire more of our young people. So we should be willing to do this. So basically, looking at where the pendulum should be swinging and how you prioritize from the bottom and up the pyramid to be able to open more opportunities for young people through upskilling and strengthening of the SMEs. Thank you very much, Ndungu, for that. I would give an opportunity for Rukia but maybe after Rukia, if there is any young person who is employed in the sector, I would like to maybe get their 1 or 2 minutes reflections on what needs to happen to make this place good for young people, because we are talking about young people here. So maybe Rukia, are you ready now? Seems like Rukia is not very ready. Is there any young people, any young person who could two things would employers like Dr. Kwai need to do to make the environment conducive for young people?
Okay, sorry, can you hear me? I was having troubles with my, this is Rukia. I was having troubles with my machine, so I switched to someone else.
Go ahead,
That's why it's not
Rukia.
reading on me.
We are worried we lost you. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that. So I think just a reflection, especially on the youth engagement part, we've seen the danger of like not working by the young people, and that's also not just on understanding the demand, but then another challenge even with facing the young people that we had noticed over time is matching the young people's aspiration and motivation towards different jobs. So working with them and also enabling them to understand that this is also what's like around there in the job market, and also debunking and them understanding that there are more opportunities within different sectors as compared to the white collar jobs that we're used to. You'd also be very surprised. A lot of them would not really understand the kind of income they will earn from different jobs that are not necessarily white collar and they're more of like hands-on skills. So working with young people from like the research space, interpreting these reports, disseminating them to them, and enabling them to understand the various opportunities would really help also in them exploring different career pathways, but at the same time, you know, match their aspiration and motivation to actually stay in job. We also do not want to be in a position where we are matching young people to jobs that they are not necessarily interested to stay in, and then we end up contributing to attrition being another major issue that we have.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rukia. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, that is the time we had for this panel. I know there's quite a lot that can be said, but I want to believe very strongly that this is a conversation that must go on. And now I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Delphine, who will take us through a brief question and answer session that should help us to be able to delve deeper into this. But I also request that the focus would be on do you think this research should inform us, and what else what areas do we need to focus on, but also any thoughts on anything that has not been said on how we can all work together to make this sector a better sector for all our youth. So thank you very much, and over to you, Delphine.
Thank you, Sam. I'm Reina, but Delphine has handed over to me because she's helping me collect the questions from the different platforms. Here I am with a few of them, and thank you so much for the powerful panel conversation there led by our very own Sam Otieno. A lot of reflections are coming up. I welcome you to join in by sharing your comments and questions on the chat box. We'll be sure to respond to them as much as we can. So let me start with Michael John, a youth from Mombasa, who has a question for Dr. Wanjiro. And he says, are there plans for the Ministry of Labour to consider setting up an industrial liaison office or data platform to facilitate the youth to jobs approach to ease placement? Dr. Wanjiro, that's your question. I may take maybe 3 or 4 questions, then we will respond to them. We also have some of our respondents from Mombasa County. One of them is Fred Agutu, who is employed in hospitality industry. He asked, what incentives could motivate employers to invest in mentorship programs for youth? What incentives could motivate employers to invest in mentorship programs for youth? Another one is Sam Wakio from Youth Support Organization in Generation Kenya. The organization is Generation Kenya. He's asking what elements of work readiness program would be useful in equipping youth before placement for a sustainable employment engagement. Let me repeat that. What elements of work readiness program would be useful in equipping youth before placement for a sustainable employment engagement? And the last one in this round is from Ben Masharia. And they were sharing a question with his colleague, Dennis Mushiri. These are trainers from the Youth Support Organization category. And they are asking, how can training institutions promote a demand-driven training approach to align with industry needs? He's asking, how can training institutions promote a demand-driven training approach to align with industry needs? So I would like to welcome in Dr. Wanjiro with the question from Michael Mombasa. Just a reminder, he's asking if there are any plans for the ministry or from the that the ministries would consider in setting up an industrial liaison office or data platform to facilitate the youth to jobs approach for ease of placement. Dr. Wanjiro.
Yes, that's a good question. And I think what I would like to do is to inform him about the places where he can actually get this information. Right now, we have the National Employment Authority Management Integrated System, NIMS. If you type the word NEA, National Employment Authority, you can quickly enter the system and look at the jobs that are available. It has quite a number of jobs there. And all you need to do is to apply. The jobs have been verified by the Ministry of Labour. The other data tool that we have is the Kenya Skills Hub. If you again type the word Kenya Skills Hub, that platform will come. We have put again all information that you need with regard to training programs that are free, career guidance programs, job search links, anything that can empower you or help you to get a job is on the Kenya Skills Hub. And I just want to report that we have just finished a skills gap report where we have looked at the countries that have high job opportunities. Again, we have put that report on our Skills Hub. Ajira is also another hub that the youth can go to look for the BPO jobs, the gig jobs, gig training. You're trained for 1 week, you're mentored for 5 weeks, and then you enter straight into the market. So we have some digital tools that are available for the youth. The only problem is that I think not many people know about these links. So I think what we need, and I think that's a challenge on our part, is to be able to publicize this information that we have that can help the youth. We are also developing a link, an app, a mobile app, which we are calling the Ujuzi link. We are trying to register it on the Google app. Once it's there, you will get it on your phone. And then we link you straight away to the market. So if you live around Langata, you can be able to get jobs around Langata. That is the practical jobs for plumbers, electricians, and so forth. So we are trying to use ICT to ensure that you are able to access job opportunities and job placement. So the ones that are there for now is the NIMS, National Employment Authority, Kenya Skills Hub, and Ajira. Those ones will quickly get you into the labor market. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Wanjiro. And there you have it, the National Employment Authority. Just go there. It's also interesting to know that the ministry is working out an app. I would like to correct myself by just saying that we have some questions that are directed to the following people. The first question is directed to Mr. Fred Agutu, an employer in the hospitality industry. Fred, you can tell us in a minute what incentives could motivate employers to invest in mentorship programs for the youth. Thank you. Fred, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much. Incentive that will motivate employers to invest in mentorship program. Number one, talent pipeline development. How does it work? It helps prepare youth with the skills, values, and the knowledge that align to the future business requirement. This will motivate employers to invest in the mentorship programs. Number two, the CSR and brand reputation. Public image by supporting youth, and it makes employers commit to so.
My network.
Okay, can you?
I think it's your network.
Oh, sorry. You can finalize, Mr. Agutu. Thank you.
Okay, I've talked of two things. Number one, talent pipeline development. Number two, I've talked of CSR. Number three, financial and tax incentives. As we are aware, some governments, if you as an employer, you're involved in the mentorship programs, they'll give you some breaks in terms of tax, or to some extent funds you. For example, when I was the Fairmont, there's a conservancy whereby the government were able to give the bongo. So when you play a role in mentorship, the number of things that maybe you can get from the government. Number four, employee engagement and retention. How does it help employers who participate in the mentorship? By professional development, mentors themselves, for example, if you are practicing the mentorship tools, as an employer, you're talking.
Mr. Fred.
For them, and last, community impact and economic growth. By investing in youth, business help build stronger local and workforce, which can lead to economic growth that benefits the company too. So those are some of the things that make employers also involve themselves in the mentorship programs. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It's about investing in your employees so that they work better and also you're able to retain them. My next question goes to Mr. Samuel Kio, who is in Generation Kenya under Youth Support. What elements of work readiness program would be useful in equipping youth before placement for a sustainable youth employment engagement? I hope you heard me, Mr. Sam. You can take the next minute so that we wrap in the next 8. Thank you.
Absolutely. I don't know whether you can hear me. My internet is laggy.
Yes,
I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you. Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much, Reino and Team Zizi Afrique for inviting us as a generation. Maybe as I go to answer your question, I would like to mention that at Generation Kenya, we are celebrating our 10-year anniversary this year. As we launched in 2015, we have graduated 33,000 learners, achieving an 85% placement rate, showcasing our partnerships, with different stakeholders. And maybe now to your question, one of the things that we have experienced at Generation Kenya, we have anchored a lot of impact around our 7-step methodology. And this has actually showcased to us how we provide focus within work readiness programs and how we do employer engagement. And so to answer your question, one of the aspects that we really focus on is on very strong employer engagement where we work with employers around curriculum design, curriculum delivery, and also guaranteeing these employers that our training matches the current needs that they have, within their market, within what it is that they're looking to onboard. Apart from that, we also look so much into technical skills training. And if you look at some of the programs that we run in Mombasa, we have tailored them to high demand sectors, where even as we train youth, we are actually using similar machine systems that are used within employer-based environments. So that way, even when these youth get into the market, they are not seeing these things afresh. They're not seeing these things being new. They're actually just moving into a productive or production kind of environment. One of the other things that we are very good at Generation is also developing soft skills. You find that there are very many youth who are very good technically. They are very good at making that beautiful cup of coffee, very good at making gelatos, ice creams, but then they lack that communication aspect. They cannot work with teams. They are not adaptable to problem solving. So at Generation, we make sure that we package this for them so that they have the ability of working with others around them. They have that ability to look at things critically and also look at things long term. We also hive off 2 specific attributes under soft skills, and basically around mindset and behavioral training, where we foster resilience, we look into professionalism and a growth-oriented mindset. One of the speakers mentioned that we are at 66% NEET. That's quite a high number. And so we also have to ensure that our youth understand that even when they get into the job environment, scaling upwards might be slow. They might they might find that they have issues with their bosses and stuff like that. And lastly, one of the things that we have to anchor youth and employability is around mentorship and psychosocial support. We see that a lot of youth today come with a lot of challenges around mental health. How do we bridge that gap? How do we put them in a space where they have a mentee-mentor relationship?
Sure.
Having trained 33,000 people, we know and understand how to put that development so that it's easy for them to get into workforce. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much for the aspect that you're already employing and they seem to be working for you, and for the aspect of mental wellness. Now I want to bring in Mildred Wangare, research assistant, and she's a youth. So Mildred, what challenges could you highlight from employers' insights on youth employment during the employer surveys? Mildred, I hope you're there and you can answer this question that reads, what challenges could you highlight from employers' insights on youth employment during the employer surveys? Then we will wrap up in a few minutes. I'm sorry, some of the questions may not be read here, but we'll be sure to share them as we'll be sharing the link to the main conversation here as well as a report. So do not worry. We are open and we are really, really going to ensure that our platform remains open so that your questions from this webinar and beyond will be tackled by the respective people who are in charge. So Mildred, are you there? If Mildred is not there, I would like to bring in Michael Musembi, who is also a research assistant. Michael, if you can tell us if there are any plans for the Ministry of Labour to consider setting up, I think that has been taken care of by Dr. Wanjiru. Can I now go to a trainer? Because, we are talking about employers, employees, and trainers and researchers. So here I have some trainers, Ben and Dennis. One or both of you can go in the next 1 minute. Just tell us, how can training institutions promote a demand-driven training approach to align with industry needs? How can training institutions promote a demand-driven training approach to align with industry needs? Ben, if you're there, I give you the next 1 minute so that we can wrap up. And Mr. Kibe, just be on standby to help us check on the way forward. Ben?
Good evening. I'm here.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
You can go in 30 seconds, kindly.
Okay, so these are some of the insights from the employer side concerning the youth employment. They mentioned skill mismatch, That means many employers noted that of skills needed for available jobs, that is both technical, soft skills like communication, teamwork, and critical thinking. Another thing that was mentioned is work readiness gap. The youth are sometimes not work ready in quotes. That's what they were saying, meaning they struggle with professionalism, the punctuality, workplace behavior, and adaptability. Another insight was limited practical experience. That is, a lot of youth have academic qualification, but when it comes to hands-on experience or exposure to real work environment, they are not hands-on it. Another insight was the mismatch between expectation and reality, of which that many young people expect high salaries and fast promotion without understanding the industry norms or need to first build experience before they upgrade the ladder. Those were the four main insights that we got across the research.
Quite critical there. Thank you so much, Mildred, bringing in the aspect of work environment as well. I want to give the very last opportunity to Musembi. If you're there, Musembi, just highlight for us how training institution can promote a demand-driven training approach to align with industry needs. Then we'll wrap it up. Musembi? Or was it Ben whose voice came in before Mildred's? Kindly just go ahead.
That
Okay,
was Dennis' voice.
Oh, yes. Dennis, please.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead. Thank you, Dennis.
Okay, great, great. So essentially, training institutions are production units for labor, competent labor for the private sector. So what that means is that the two must work together. And for us to ensure that the two are working together, the institution should have a very strong industrial linkage with training institution. So this will come in form of what we call sector skills advisory committee that will be advising the skills gaps, which will inform the occupational standards for the development of demand-led training modules. Of course, we also have what we call work integrated learning, which means that the private sector must open the opportunities for the trainees to practice what they have learned in the industry, in the training institutions at the places of work. We need to understand that TVET is not a waterfall approach. TVET should be very fluid. TVET should be very agile. What that means is that we need to regularly conduct labor market assessments for us to identify any skills gaps so that we can always update the curriculum to be in tandem with the new trends in the market. And that cannot happen if the training institutions will not work closely with the private sector. Again, and lastly, as I conclude, is that we also need to ensure that we are building the capacities of the trainers through upskilling and reskilling. This will ensure that we are exposing them to the new trends that is relevant to the industry, because we know we are preparing this youth for them to be consumed or to be employed at the industry level. Allow me to submit at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dennis, for respecting time, one of the skills that are really important even in the workplace. And now let me bring in back Mr. Peter Kibe, who is the Hospitality and Tourism Lead at Global Development Incubator, for the wrap-up and way forward. Then I'll come back for the closing. Mr. Kibe.
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity. And I think without taking so much time, we are all here, employers, trainers, young people, NGO skilling initiatives. I think we must commit to be doers as we close this webinar. Whatever recommendations that has been put across in this webinar and in the report, if the report said as a skilling institutions, we must have placement liaison officers, industry liaison officers for us to to bridge that gap. Kindly let us institute those, because those are some of the gaps that we have seen. The second thing is that we must make our workplace attractive for our young people, especially in hospitality and tourism. We don't have an option. Let's as employers, as government, let's try as make us and make our workplace as attractive as possible. Thirdly, I have seen a lot of young people decrying that information does not get to them. Whether it is information on jobs, information on skilling initiatives. Right now, there could be an organization that has money in Mombasa, train young people, but for some reason, another needy person in Kisauni is not able to get this information. So we must have a concerted effort. SGOIN, we have a database where we have recruited young people, and whenever we have an opportunity, whether it is within us directly or within our partners, we just share in our WhatsApp groups, in an email, in a text message. Everybody here must share this information because young people might not have the privilege to access this information like we would. Fourthly, about entrepreneurship, Mr. Dongo underscored the importance of entrepreneurship, but something that we have noted in the ecosystem is we do not have very robust entrepreneurship support systems. Entrepreneurship programs is beyond calling people and showing them how to do a business model canvas. It should be targeted and appreciating that a young person, probably his first intervention needed to be told how to define his product. Then another intervention will be how to scale. Another intervention will be how to look for funding. So that we can graduate this young person up to a level he will be able to sustain himself in entrepreneurship. So as an ecosystem, I think the goal will be for us to have very methodical entrepreneurship programming. Let's share data instead of Swahilipot, another partner in the corner doing a program, probably redundant, and because a young person does not have a job and needs that transport stipend, he'll just sign up for that program without a net game to it. So we must be very methodical in how we are doing that as an ecosystem. And fourthly, we must have a system to share, labor market data. As I've said, we have employers right now, probably the employers in this webinar that have a job opportunity, and there's another young person who completely does not know how to get that opportunity. We must crack our heads to figure it out, how we can start it with Mombasa and probably cascade to other parts of the country. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for ending us, Mr. Kibe. It has been 1.5 hours of engagement. Some of the key highlights include bridging training and industry, improving workplace conditions, enhancing youth awareness of government resources, including apps and the site that Dr. Wanjiru already shared, sustainable entrepreneurship and startup funding, real-time data and for workforce planning, youth to jobs pipeline, to mention a few. Thank you very much. It is important to note that we've had a lot of questions from the participants. This conversation does not end within the 1.5 hour window, but we continue it on our website and social media sites, which have been shared on the chat box. Please feel free to talk to us, to ask questions. Until next time, I want to thank you and goodbye from Nairobi. You can unmute and say goodbye as we leave.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.